out of the car. Get out of the car. Oh! Good.
After an ICE officer opened fire and shot dead a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis, all hell broke loose. Massive protests erupted in Minneapolis, with demonstrators clashing with police and shouting "shame" in the direction of agents tasked with saving America as part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown agenda. On January 9th, a Minnesota prosecutor asked the public to submit any recordings or evidence related to the fatal shooting of Renee Good to aid investigators. Good was shot by an immigration and customs enforcement officer in Minneapolis, and a newly released 47-second video from the officer's perspective has drawn fresh scrutiny. The newly released 47-second clip, first posted by Minnesota conservative outlet Alpha News and later shared on social media by the Department of Homeland Security, captures the shooting from the viewpoint of ICE officer Jonathan Ross, who fired shots at Renee Good. Sirens blare as the officer circles Renee Good's vehicle, apparently filming on his phone, while Good's wife records from outside. Good says, "That's fine. I'm not mad at you," with one hand on the wheel and the other out the window. Her wife shouts, "You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say, go get yourself some lunch, big boy." Other officers approach, one yelling, "Get out of the car! Get out of the in-car." Good briefly reverses, then steers forward as Ross opens fire. The camera shakes while showing her SUV careening uncontrollably before crashing into multiple parked cars. Watch the video for yourself to interpret what actually happened.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Oh! Good.
Federal agencies have encouraged officers to record interactions where someone might interfere with enforcement actions. But experts warn that using a handheld device can make volatile situations worse by tying up an officer's hands and narrowing their focus. Under ICE policy, agents are supposed to turn on body-worn cameras at the start of enforcement and preserve footage in serious incidents like deaths or use of force cases. The Department of Homeland Security has not said whether the officer who fired or others at the scene were wearing body cameras. The Trump administration defended the agent, saying he acted in self-defense. Reposting the video, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance lambasted the media over the coverage of the shooting incident. He wrote, and I quote, "What the press has done in lying about this innocent law enforcement officer is disgusting. You should all be ashamed of yourselves." White House Press Secretary Leavitt also reposted the video in support of the ICE agent and wrote, "The media smeared an ICE agent who properly defended himself from being run over by organized leftist protesters." Asked about the Minneapolis shooting, Trump blatantly rejected the widely accepted perception that the ICE official killed Renee Good in broad daylight. And defending the official, he said, "We will always protect ICE, our border patrol, and law enforcement." He also sharply criticized the protesters, who were shouting during the demonstrations, captured in the witnessed video of the shooting.
The vice president yesterday suggested that Renee Good, who was killed by this ICE officer, was part of a broad left-wing network. What has your team told you about this broad left-wing network? Who is in charge of it? Who's part of it? What's it called?
Well, I haven't seen the vice president's statement, but he's generally very accurate. I hate to say, I watched that yesterday, and there were a lot of different forms to it. But there was a woman screaming, "Shame, shame, shame, shame." She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional. She wouldn't stop screaming. I said, this isn't a normal situation. This is a professional troublemaker, because you heard it and I had it. Now, I will say this. The news sort of turned her down, turned her off, because you're trying to watch. She was so loud and so crazy and just not normal. When somebody sees something like that, they don't go screaming and the same words. So I guess you could say professional, but I didn't think she did a very good job. You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement.
If you think this is the height of the Trump administration's defense of the ICE killing in Minneapolis as part of the immigration crackdown, you're in for some more surprise. The vice president appeared at a scheduled White House briefing, held a complete press briefing in defense of the ICE official, and even announced absolute immunity for the agent.
When I was actually walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE, I stand with ICE, we stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz earlier today. He said, "When things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now." Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe in fact has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.